Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Nadia, the owner and creator of New Mom Spirit, and I'm here today with the last video of our crochet 101. We have done the absolute beginners, intermediates, and here we are with the advanced. In this video you're going to find over 35 stitches that they are going to teach you and bring you to another level of knowledge in the world of crochet. First of all, before you watch this video, I will appreciate if you give us a huge thumbs up and you subscribe and press the notification bell to don't miss any of our videos that are to come really soon. And for the first 10 people that find out on this video which one is my favorite stitch, believe me, I mentioned it a few times so you will know which one I'm talking about, they will have an incredible prize. But as well, just not only visually you will learn the stitches, but you can go to my website newmomspirit.com, and over in there on my vlogs you're gonna find the vlog post for every stitch that is stitched on this video. So there is no way you will not know how to do it after this, because I'm visually showing it to you and I'm explaining it to you by words as well on my vlog. So I hope you enjoyed this video and we talk soon. This is the V stitch. You need an even number of chains, and then you're gonna start working on the first UK treble crochet or US double crochet on the fourth chain from the hook, and that first chains that you have left count as one double crochet worked in there. Then you have to count as a repetition of stitches by chaining one and doing another stitch again on the same space. That is the repetition that you will follow for this stitch all over. So right now you have to skip 1, 2 on the third, and then you're going to again do another stitch in there. So you're going to do one UK treble crochet or a one US double crochet, chain one, and do it again. So it's 2 stitches in one space, but it's really important that you keep one chain in between them, because that's what you're going to work for the rest of the project. So when you arrive at the end, you need to repeat the same that at the beginning. Our chain spaces was counting as 1 stitch, so you have to do 1 last stitch at the end. Then you are going to chain 2, and then you're going to turn. Then you're gonna directly go inside the chain spaces, the V's from before, and over in there you're going to do again the same as before. 1 UK treble crochet or US double crochet, chain 1, and repeat the same stitch on the same space. So the repetition of this pattern is keep doing all the time the V's in the same stitch, and then always remember that you need to create 1 last stitch at the back. Repeat this for as many times as you need to create the length and the width of the project that you need. Here obviously for my sample I have made a really small design, but you will have made as many chains as you need to for your width of your project at the beginning, and right now you will be doing the length that you need for your separation space and the length of what your project that you are trying to work on it is. But it's a really simple and beautiful design. The only most important thing you have to remember is to always do 1 last stitch at the end, so that's your border. And here is the result. This is the most stitch and also needs an even number of chains, and you're going to start working on the second chain from the hook by doing 1 UK double crochet or a US single crochet, and then you're going to be doing 1 stitch, chain 1, skip 1, and then doing again the same stitch, which is the UK double crochet or the US single crochet. And the secret is in creating those chains. When for row 2 you're going to chain 1, and then you're going to straight away do 1 stitch exactly underneath those chains, and then you're going to be working on the chain spaces that you have created in the previous row by repeating exactly the same thing. As I said, the secret is to do it in between the stitches from before, which is on the chain 1. Over in there you're going to repeat absolutely the same, which is the UK double crochet or the US single crochet, by doing it, chaining 1, and do it again. You will have done the amount of chains that you need for your width of your project, and then now for the length is absolutely the same.
Then the only thing you have to remember is that at the end you always have to create one extra stitch in there to create the border of the project length that you need. So it's an even project because in some rows that will be any stitch and in others will be a chain space. And then from there just keep going as many times as you need to create the stitch length that you need. And you just have to be really careful and make sure you are doing the stitch in between the stitches from before, not on top of any stitch, but in between stitches. This is the puff stitch, and you're going to make as many chains as you desire. You're going to jump to 1, 2, 3, and to the 4th chain from the hook, yarn over. You're going to insert it in that chain space, and then you're going to pull a loop. Try to give yourself a little bit of space. You're going to do it again. That's 2, that's 3. You're going to count how many stitches you have, how many loops you have on your hook, and then that's 4. Then you're going to yarn over and you're going to pull it until you reach the first loop from your hook. There we go. When you have 2 loops on the hook, you're going to yarn over and pull through both of them. Then you're going to do 1 chain, and you're going to go 1, 2, and then on the second space you're going to do what it is again, another puff stitch straight away. So you have closed the puff stitches with that slip stitch that you have done at the end, and this is version 1 of the puff stitch that I want to show you. Later on in the video you're going to see another option to do puff stitches. They look slightly different, but the process is really similar. And the only thing you have to do is first make sure the amount of loops you have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're gonna pull your yarn again and then close it with a slip stitch in there. Then chain 1 and do it over and over again until the end of your row. You will even build 1 before you finished, and then you're going to do 1 double crochet on the US or 1 treble crochet in the US on the last stitch. Then there you have the first space. So you're going to go inside that space and you're going to start creating the first puff stitch. The reason why we've done that stitch at the end, it's because the stitch needs a border on the sides, this type of project, and you have created one with the chains that you have skipped at the beginning, remember? So that's your chain space in there, and there is where you have to work another stitch in there to create a foundation, let's say, or a border, however you want to call it, in between puff stitches. So here's the result. For the griddle stitch, you're going to need a even number of chains. You're going to jump to the 4th chain, and then in there you're going to do a UK double or a US single crochet. Then you're going to go to the next stitch and you're going to do a UK treble or a US double crochet, and this is the repetition. You're going to follow along the entire chain space and the rest of your rows that you do, which is in one row you're going to do it in one way, then you're going to chain 3, you're going to turn, and then you're going to do the opposite. On top of the UK trebles or US doubles, you're going to do a UK double or a single crochet on the US, and then the opposite on the other. And look at the result. The shell stitch need a chain of multiplication of 6 plus 1. Then you are going to jump until the 4th chain from the hook, and in there you're going to work 5 UK treble crochets or US double crochets into the same stitch. That is 5 of them in one same stitch that you have to work, and this is what is going to create the shape that we need of this project. As I said, the chain space, you're going to make it as big as you want to or you need to. After you've done that, you're going to skip 2 stitches, 2 chains, and then you're again going to work now 1 UK double crochet or 1 US single crochet. You're going to again skip 2 stitches, 2 chains, and do the same repetition done before. 5 UK treble crochets or 5 US double crochets, and then you're gonna skip 2 and you're gonna do 1 UK double crochet or US single crochet, and that's the repetition you have to do for the entire row 1, which you're working on the chains, but later on you will be working on the stitches. And then once you finish that for row 2, you're going to chain 3 and turn, and then what you're going to do, you have the space in there of that last single crochet US or double crochet on the UK, and in there you are going to work the UK trebles, 3 of them, or US and double crochets, and then you're gonna go and skip 2 stitches, and basically you're gonna be working 1 UK double or 1 US treble on the third of the stitches from the fan, and then you're gonna go and then you're going to make another fan or shell on top of the UK double crochet or US single crochet that you've made in between the shells before. So that's what you're going to be doing them right now, and then at the end you have the chain spaces that you have skipped before, and that's what you're going to do your last UK double crochet or US treble crochet. For Jacob's ladder stitch, you need a multiple of 6 plus 3. So once you've done your multiple of 6, chain 3 again, and then you're gonna start working from the 4th chain from your hook. And then what you're going to do in that stitch is going to be a foundation for this stitch, which is you have to do 1 UK treble or a US double crochet, however it is that you work on your terminology, and then you're going to repeat this for few stitches before we can start creating our design. So you need to do this foundation where you will have the chain spaces plus 3 more of them. Then you're going to chain 10, and once you chain 10, you're going to go back to where you were working on your chain spaces that later on will be your stitches. Okay, so that's your foundation in there. You're going to go to the bottom of the chains, and in there you're going to do 1 slip stitch, and that's going to close our chains that we just created. So that's your first ladder space, let's call it. So then now we have to repeat it again. So you're going to do the UK treble or the US double crochets to separate in between the chain spaces that we're doing to create the project that later on will be finished. This is one of the hardest stitches I will say I'm teaching you, so you just have to do it slowly and count everything properly. As I say, it's 4 UK trebles or US double crochets in between these chain spaces, and then again you're going to chain 10, go down, and then you take those 2 loops in there and you do 1 slip stitch in there. Make sure your chains are properly. As you can see here, I trapped them a little bit, but just pull them. That's it. Okay, so that's row 1. For row 2, you're going to chain 1, and in that first space you're going to do a UK double crochet or a US single crochet, and you're going to repeat that along all the space until you reach your first chain space. And look, in there you have a space. Do not skip it, and work a stitch as well in there. Then what you're going to do is you're going to pull down your chains, found the next space, which is in the other side of the chains. It's really important that you do not skip the chains that are on each side of the chains, and you're going to continue working this stitch all the way down. Once you've finished, you're going to chain 3, and then you're going to turn your project, and now comes the time to create another row like row 1. Okay, so what you're going to do is on the first stitch from underneath the chains, we don't have to work because our chains works as 1 UK treble crochet or a US double crochet, and you're going to repeat exactly the same that you did before, which is create an amount of stitches in between the chain spaces, and look, you're exactly on the same chain space that you were before. And then in there again, you're gonna chain 10, you're gonna close out your chains and work again the stitches in between the chains and continue working along. So you have to do all the time a repetition of row 1 and row 2. I know for some people row 1 is quite complicated because we are working in the chain spaces, but if you prefer, so do a repetition of row 2 and row 3 all along, but your foundation is row 1, remember that. So it's all about creating the same amount of stitches and placing the chains exactly on the same space. And the way to know you're exactly where you have to be is once you reach this stitch, you can check if you are underneath the same chain space than before, then you're in the correct space. Because remember, later on, I'm going to show you how to close this down, and they have to be aligned one with another. So as I said before, it's a quite difficult stitch, but at the same time, once you get the way of doing it, it's quite easy to follow along. And then for row 4 here, you will do row 2 and so on until you have your desired length of stitches. And then once you have finished everything, what you're going to do is you're going to again chain 3, and then you are going to do again UK treble crochets or US double crochets all along, no more chain spaces. And then you can help yourself with either a hook, and then you're going to pass one chain over another. Here I'm going to show you how to do it with the hook, or you can do it with your own fingers. The thing is, you need to pass one loop on top of another, like braiding them. So you pass it, the second one through the first, and then the second one through the third, until you create that loops in there. And once you finish, you're going to chain 1. And what you're going to do is you're going to do one UK double crochet or US single crochet along until you reach the loops of your chains. And then now is when you are going to do that stitch, and then you're going to include your chain spaces in there, and you're going to close it down. So you see, you're taking the loop exactly on top of where it should be. Make sure it's all straight, and then you will lock it in there, because this is your last row. This is Solomon knot need a multiple of 2. Then you're going to go to the second chain from the hook, and you're going to work a UK double crochet or a US single crochet on that first space. And then this stitch, the trick is the tension that you put on your yarn, and you have to repeat the same tension all over, otherwise it will not look the same way. So what you're gonna have to do in here, once you've done your first UK double crochet or US single crochets, you're gonna pull the loop slightly, okay, and this is the same length you have to leave for all the spaces that you're gonna leave in between. Then you're gonna yarn over, and you're gonna pass it through your first loop that you have in there. So you have kind of created a slip stitch in there, and then now you have the 3 loops. Can you see it really clearly, the 3 loops you have in there? Well, you're gonna go through the back loop, let's say, of this space that we have created. That's your back loop in there. So you're gonna insert it in there, pull your yarn, you have 2 loops on your hook, and then you're going to do a UK double crochet or a US single crochet. So now you have one UK double crochet or US single crochet on the bottom, a space, and then you have another one. And what you have to do is very simple. You just have to repeat this again. So however length you have left before, you're going to do it again. So hold your yarn, put slightly your yarn in there from your hook, and then do it again. By first, remember doing sort of a slip stitch in your loop that you have on your hook, then go inside the third space. So on the front, you can see the V stitch, and then you can see the back loop. Okay, so in the back loop, you're gonna create another stitch in there. So now you have 3 in total, 1 from the foundation plus 2 more that you have created up there. Then you're gonna skip the first one, okay, that's the one that we have worked. Then you're gonna do 1, 2, 3, okay, which is kind of like the 4th chain. So you're gonna go to kind of like the 5th chain from the hook. It will have been, in this case, is the 4th chain from the first stitch, and then you're gonna do a UK double crochet or a US single crochet, and that's the space. And you're gonna repeat again the same process. You have your foundation stitch on the stitches that we have created at the beginning, the chains that we created at the beginning, and now we have to create these stitches up high and then close it down on the bottom of the foundation chain that we have. So as I said before, it's all about the tension that you create on the hook, and as well the length of the spaces that you created. If you want to leave it slightly smaller, do it, or shorter, if that makes any sense. But if you leave it really long, make sure you leave it the same, so it's all the time the same visible gap in between. This is the secret of this type of stitch, and I have to say it's really pretty to do different type of designs. And then once you're finished, what you're going to do is you're going to chain 5 for row number 2, and then you're going to start doing again the same thing in there. So after you chain 5, then you're going to do 1 of the stitches that we have created before, and then you're going to go to the bottom, and then in the bottom you should have that first stitch that we created in there, and then you have the first space loop that we created in between them, and then the second UK double crochet or US single crochet, and in that one is where you're going to work another UK double crochet or US single crochet, okay? And that is the repetition that you have to create. So again, you're gonna do your loops once more for row number 2, and then again, same amount of space, same amount of tension from one to another. That's what we're creating all the time, because it's a pattern repetition and we want it all to look the same. This time you're going to make 2 of them, and then again you're going to go to the second one that you've done on the previous row and then create your foundation of these loops. And here is the result. Little arches, you need a multiple of 4 plus 1. You're going to go to the 4th chain from the hook and you're going to work 1 UK double crochet or a US single crochet in there. Those chain spaces count as a little arch, so that's why we need to do it like that. Now that you have done that first stitch in there and left your chain spaces like that, what you're going to do is you're going to do 3 chains, and then on the stitch next to it you are going to again do another UK double crochet or US single crochet. So that's your first arch. And then you're gonna chain 3, and then you're gonna skip stitches. Okay, you're gonna skip 1, 2, 3 on the 3rd one. There you're going to do 1 UK double crochet or a US single crochet, and then you're going to do 3 chains again. You're gonna go down to the next stitch next to it, and again you're gonna work 1 stitch. Then you're gonna again skip, after you've done the 3 chains, you're gonna skip 2 stitches, and on the 3rd one you're gonna do again 1 stitch, chain 3, 1 stitch together. So that's the whole repetition. You have to follow along the entire first row, and then once you reach the next one, you're gonna do 3 chains for row 2. Then you have your first chains spaces that you have created, and in there you're gonna do stitch, chain 3, stitch together. Then the next chain spaces that you have is the chain spaces in between 2 groups of stitches. So you're gonna chain 3, skip that first loop in there, which that one is the separation between one another, and you're gonna go to the next chain spaces in there, which is where you have done the 2 together. So you will always work inside the 2 together in the next rows that you will do. So it's a really simple pattern repetition. The only thing you have to be careful is that you're working all the time the same. I'm going to show you what it will be the final row. You're going to chain 1, go in that same first space and do a stitch, chain 1, go to the first chain spaces and again do another stitch. Chain 1, go to the next chain spaces and do another stitch. And this is the way to create a border to finish this project, which obviously right now I only done 2 rows, but you will do more. For the Celtic wave, you're going to need a multiple of 4 plus 2 for your chain foundation. You're going to skip to the 3rd chain from the hook, and then what you're going to work, you're going to work one UK treble or a US double crochet on that stitch, and then you're going to create a foundation of a stitch, which means you're going to do a repetition of these UK treble or US double crochets all along your foundation chain. That again, it should be a multiple of 4 plus 2. Once you've done that, then you're going to chain 2, and then we need to examine a little bit the stitches. So first there you have your space of under your chains, and you're gonna again do a UK treble or a US double crochet in there. Then what we are going to do is we're gonna start creating the space of the creation of this stitch. So if you go to the 3rd chain or the 3rd stitch from the last stitch that you just created in there, you're gonna go to the front post of that one. Okay, so that's your 3rd one, and that's the post that belong to that stitch. So you have the normal V's that we normal work in there, and this is the post. And to work the front post is how I'm showing to you right now. You're gonna insert your hook from behind and back to the front. So yarn over twice because you're working a US treble crochet, then you do 3. Okay, so then you go in there, and then you're going to work the front post of that, and that is by yarn over, pass through 2, yarn over, pass through 2, yarn over, and pass through 2. So that's your first post, front post for this design. Now what you're going to do for the next one is going to be doing it on the next stitch. So you're going to take the front post of the next stitch and repeat the same stitch, which is a second part of this project. This one is a really tricky one, but it's so beautiful. I could not skip to show it to you. Okay, so you remember now we have done this, but we have skipped 2 stitches at the front, right? So now comes the time to go back and work on those 2. So you first work to the back and then you come back to the front. So those are your 2 spaces, front spaces. Give yourself some space on the hook to be able to work on them, and then again you're gonna do your stitch in there same way that you did before. Obviously right now it's gonna be quite difficult to see yet because you're pulling too much the project, but once you've finished, just pull a little bit the stitch and then you will be able to see it. Now you have 1 hidden stitch back there. Remember we have 2. Well, you're gonna go and find it. Okay, give yourself, as I did here, a little bit of space, and then go back and get that one that you have forgotten before, and then work that stitch the same way. So you have created like a cross of 2 stitches coming from each side. This is the repetition you have to do all the time. I hope it was easy to understand why we need to skip stitches. Now comes the time you need to realize the stitches that you have worked, and then you're gonna go to the next one. So there behind you have the one that belongs to that one. Now we have to again skip 2, and then we need to work on the 3rd one, and then you're gonna do exactly the same. You're gonna work these 2, and then you're gonna go back and you're gonna work the other 2s at the front that you have left behind. Okay, that is the secret of this stage, which again is not really difficult to work. You just have to pay attention where you are and where you're going to make sure that you are not skipping any, and that you have the cross created how you need it for every single stitch. So this, it will be your repetition along the entire project. The only thing you have to remember at the end of it as well is the space that you have left at the very beginning, the stitch that we create on its own, and that one needs to be repeated. So like that we will create like posts on each side of the project to create a foundation basically. For the next row, what we're gonna do is we're going to chain 2, and on the first stitch from the chain we're gonna work 1 double crochet on the US or a treble crochet on the UK. Then there is the first post that we have created before. On this first post, what you're going to do is you are again going to do 1 US double crochet or a UK treble crochet in both of them. working from the back. So when we turn our project, which will be the front of our project, the right side, we can see how it all comes together. You're gonna skip the back ones and you're gonna go to the other two front, and in there you're gonna work a UK double treble crochet or a US treble crochet in there, which is yarning over twice and then pass it 3 times through your hook. So that's what you're doing. The first one, you've done it with one stitch, and then the second one, you will do it in a different way. So you're going to work both of them. Keep turning your project so you can see the post where you are working, which is really important to make sure you're exactly on top of them. So now we have worked both of those fronts, and now we have to work the back of them, right? So you're going to go behind those two front, and then you're gonna take it from behind those loops. I know it's quite tricky, but you can do it. And then there again, you're gonna work UK double trebles or US trebles crochets. You have worked one, now you have to work the other, okay? And it's all about going behind them. There we go, there it is, you see? And then you're gonna pass it front. I know you're working the back, but I'm just trying to explain it the best that I can so you can visually see how this is. And this is the result of how it is by the end. And always remember, you're going to finish by doing 2 US double crochets or 2 UK treble crochets at the end. And for the last final row, once you have finished, you're going to chain 2. You're going to go in that first stitch and you're going to work US half double crochets or UK half treble crochet on the first one from your hook, and you're going to repeat that all over to create like a foundation final to finish this project, which is really beautiful and easy, but you just have to pay attention. So from the primrose, we are going to do a multiple of 3 plus 2. You're going to go to the third chain from the hook, and you are going to work 1 UK double or US single crochet in that chain space in there. Then you are going to chain 2. And what you're going to do is on that same space in there, again, you're going to do another UK double or US single crochet. So you have worked 2 stitches on the same space at the moment. Then what we're going to do from there, it's really easy. You're going to skip 2, and on the third one from the stitches that you have worked, what you're going to do is another stitch repetition, again the same, which is by doing 1 UK double crochet or 1 US single crochet, chain 1 and do it, and then again you're gonna skip 2 and repeat along the entire first row of stitches that you have in there, or the amount of chains that you have done. Once you have finished, you're gonna chain 3. And what we're going to do is on that first space gap that you have in there, okay, from your last stitch, and then you have your chain spaces, right, that we have created in between stitches from before. So inside in there, you're gonna work 1 UK treble or a US double crochet on that space in there. Then that chain spaces is already worked. Where we're going to move right now, it's going to be to the same bottom of it, and then 2 of them, and then 3 of them. You're doing a cluster, okay? So we have done 3 of them, then we have the space in between, and we have again another little arch in there of chain spaces that we have created, right? So you have to move into there, and then to do it again, you're gonna create another cluster, which basically is 3 UK treble crochets or US double crochets in there. So you're going to skip that one and then do clusters all over. For the next round, what we are going to do is you're going to chain and you're going to skip, and you're going to skip 3 chains and start doing 1 skip, 2 skips, and then again doing one single crochet or one UK double crochet, chain two, and then do it again on that same space. So you skip two and then you do it again. So it's a group of repetition of stitches all over again. Then we chain one, and then we are gonna work again all the clusters as we did it previously. So it's all entire repetition between the stitches from row number 1 and row number 2, and it's all the time creating the chain spaces and then working the clusters inside the chain spaces. And this is what is this stitch about, creating those clusters by doing a combination of two different rows with two different type of stitches. And it's gorgeous, as you can see. I love it. It's really, really pretty. For the final row, what you are going to do is you're going to do slip stitches all over the entire row that you have, and you have finished. For the arcade, the foundation chain will be 6 plus 1, multiple of 6 plus 1. You're going to go to the second chain from the hook, and you're going to do a UK double crochet or a US single crochet. You're going to go to the next space and do the same. The first chains that we have skipped count as one stitch in there, okay? And then you're going to go to the next one on the side, and you're going to again do another stitch in there. So now you have two single crochets, US or double crochets on the UK. Then we're going to do 1, 2, and 3 chains, and you're going to skip 1, 2, and 3 stitches on the fourth one. And you're gonna do again another UK double crochet or US single crochet. That's the one that you're gonna do in there. And then on the next one, you're gonna do it again. So you're gonna do 2 of them together and a third one. So it's a group of 3 in between. Then now what you're going to do is you're gonna chain again 1, 2, and 3 again. And then by the end of your row, you should have 2 UK doubles or US single crochets by the end of your row. This is row 1 finished. Now we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to start working different stitches in there as well. So there we have the first single crochet, or the last one we did on the previous row, and then we have the chain gap spaces in there, okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to jump straight away to the chain spaces, and we're going to work a UK treble or a US double crochet 7 times. You're going to do 7 of them in that same chain space, and that is what's going to create the shape of our project that we need. So that is your repetition in there that you are going to do. As I said, 7 of them together on the same chain space. There it is. How does it look? Now you have the 3 UK double or single crochets that you've done. So you're gonna skip 1, and in the middle one you're gonna do 1 UK double or US single crochet, and jump again straight away to the chain spaces from before and repeat again the same. And by the end you should skip 1, and then you should do a UK double or a US single crochet at the end. So this is the repetition of your stitch. Now you're gonna chain 4, you're gonna turn, and then you're gonna go to the jumping 3, and 1, 2, 3, and then you're gonna do a repetition of 3 UK double or US single crochets 3 times. Then you're gonna do 1, 2, 3, and then you're gonna skip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then on the top of that one you're gonna do it again. And this is your other repetition to create the space for the next ones, the next shapes that we have to do. So there we have our first space, and over in there what we're going to do is a UK treble or a US double crochet, and we're going to do a repetition of them for 3 times, counting with our chain will be 4. Then you're going to go to the middle of that stitch in there, and you're going to do another UK double or a US single crochet, and straight away jump into the chain spaces, and in that chain spaces you're going to do the repetition from before. What you have created on the corner is like a half of this arcade, this arch, this fan, however you want to call it, that you have created underneath. and that is what is create the shape. And then in the center of the chain spaces, you're gonna create as many of them as you need, which again is gonna be 7 of them. And you're gonna again go to the middle of the UK double or US single crochet and then create again. You're gonna repeat this over and over again until you finished. Almond stitch needs a multiple of 4 plus 2 chains. You're gonna go to the second one from the hook and you're gonna do a slip stitch, and you're gonna repeat this 4 times in total. And once you have done those 4 slip stitches, try to make them a little bit loose because you need to work on them for the next row. Okay, if they are too tight, it's gonna be really hard to work on them. Then you're gonna yarn over, and on the next stitch you're gonna work a UK half treble crochet or a US half double crochet on the next stitch. There you go, that's your first one in there after your slip stitches. And then you're gonna do that again in the next stitch, and you're gonna do that again on the next stitch. And this is the almond shape, okay, here that we are creating. So you're gonna do a repetition of them, and this is gonna create the curve of our almond in there. Once you've done that, then you're gonna again do slip stitches for 4 times. Those are the gaps in between the almonds, let's say. So that's what you have to do. You have to repeat this all the way along the length of the chain spaces that you have created. For row 2, you're gonna chain 1 and then turn, and then you have your first slip stitch that you have in there. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna work on the back loop of the stitch. As you can see, look, I say myself to keep some space in there, but it's really hard to work on slip stitches, okay? And then what you're going to do is you are again you're gonna work another slip stitch in there, which again I know it's gonna be really hard. Just push it in there, and just remember this for the next few rows, that you need to give space to yourself. And right now we are doing slip stitches only on the back loop of our project, and this is gonna create an edge that is the beauty of this stitch. Okay, so keep doing and repeating the same of what you've done on row number 1, which is 4 times slip stitches. And then after you've done the 4 times slip stitches, we are doing 4 times the half treble crochets on the UK or half double crochets on the US on the next few stitches. So you're repeating again the arch of the almond in this case. Once you've done that, again you will go back to your 4 slip stitches in the side in between the almonds, and again you're gonna do the almond shape again. So it's a really simple stitch. The only thing you have to remember is to work on the back loops, and you're gonna do all the back loops for the next amount of rows that you have to repeat. So you're gonna repeat row 2 actually all the time, which is work on the back loops at all the times. But for row number 3, what you're actually gonna do is the opposite. You're gonna work the arch of the almond on top of the slip stitches and slip stitches on top of the almonds. So this is the repetition of row number 2 that I meant. So you create foundation number 2, which is creates the almond. Then row 3 and 4, it's a repetition. The only difference is that for this row, you're going to be doing the opposite. You're going to be doing the almond shape on the top of the slip stitches from the row before, and you're going to do the slip stitches on top of the almond shape that you've done in the previous row. And you're going to keep going this repetition over and over again. The bar stitch is an even number of chain repetition foundations, and then you're going to go to the second chain from the hook, and in that chain what you're going to do is a UK double or a US single crochet. And then on the next stitch what you're going to do is again another same stitch, and this is the repetition that you're going to follow for the first round, which is a repetition of the same stitch over and over. Now for the row 2, you're gonna chain 1, and you're gonna work 1 UK double crochet or single crochet on the again the same stitches that you've done before. So it's again another repetition of foundation. And then once you reach the end of row 2, you're gonna chain 1 and you're gonna start again with the same stitches. We need to create a big foundation before we can start doing the bars. So for row number 3, you're gonna have to create the chain spaces and then 2 UK doubles or 2 US single crochets.
and then those are the 2 stitches. Now we have to start creating the bar. So you're gonna go to the panel of the next stitch, and what you're going to create is gonna be an UK treble crochet or a US double crochet on that front panel. Remember, the front panels is by inserting your hook behind that panel and then doing the stitch on top of it. So you have created your first bar in there. So you have your 2 stitches foundation first and then your panel. And this is the repetition that we're gonna keep doing all the way along this row, and this is what it creates this beautiful stitch called bar stitch. Now what you have to do is just repeat this over and over again for the next ones. Be careful that you don't work on your bar stitch because that one is already worked. You have to create the next one, and then for the next ones, again, we're gonna skip one kind of, which is the back of that bar, and then you're gonna do 1 UK double or US single crochet twice, and then again on that third one, just count the panels that you have 2 panels in there, and on the third panel is where you're gonna again create the front panel stitch of UK treble crochets or the US double crochet again. Repeat this for the entire row. Then for the next one, you're gonna chain 1, and on the first stitch, you're gonna create 1 UK double crochet or a US single crochet, and you're gonna do this during the whole entire row. And for the next one, you're gonna chain 1 and repeat again. So you're gonna do 2 UK doubles or 2 US singles on the first 2, and then you're gonna create the bar again. So when you are at the back of the project, you're gonna create a row of UK doubles or US single crochets all the way. When you have the bars facing you, that's when you work on the bars. This is how simple this stitch is. You just have to make sure in which row you are to make sure you are working on them. So you're always working from panels. You're not doing anything when the panels are behind you. And this is how beautiful it is. For the berry stitch, you need a foundation chain of even numbers. You're gonna go to the second one from the hook, and in the second chain from the hook, you're gonna do 1 UK double crochet or US single crochet, and you're going to create a foundation of stitches, and that foundation is going to be the entire row 1. It's going to be UK double crochets or US single crochets in every single stitch until you reach the end. That's your foundation of stitches before we can start creating this beautiful stitch, which is quite tricky, and I'm going to explain you right now how to do it step by step. So create the full row of the same stitch over and over again, foundation chain, as I said, and you're going to have it until you reach the end, chain 1. And on the first stitch, you're going to do 1 slip stitch, and then we're going to start creating the shape. So you're going to yarn over, insert your hook on the next stitch, pull. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 1. Now you're going to yarn over again, go to the next same stitch, and then in the same stitch, now you're going to have 3 loops on your hook. 3 from the previous one, plus 2 more that you have taken, yarn over, and you're going to pull through all of them. That's how you create this stitch. Now you're going to go to the next stitch again, and you're going to again do another slip stitch, and then yarn over, go to the next one, and then again 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over again, insert it on the same stitch, and then you have 5 loops now on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through all of them, and this is the repetition. You have to follow along the entire foundation chain of stitches that we created before. This is how beautiful it looks. And then for the next one, you're gonna start again by a chain 1. You're gonna do a UK double crochet or single crochet in the US on the first one. Then on the next one, you are going to do a slip stitch. You're gonna go on the next one, and you're gonna do a UK double or a US single crochet, and this is your repetition for the next row. So we are kind of creating another foundation. You're gonna chain 1, and what you're going to do now again is on the first one, do your slip stitch, and on the second one, we're gonna do the berry stitch, which again, remember, was yarning over. You have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 1,
yarn over, insert it on the same stitch again. You're gonna have 5 loops and then pull through all of them by yarning over. Next one, again, you're gonna do another slip stitch. And this is all the repetitions that you have to do until you reach the length desired for this project, which it will all depends on the amount of the width of your project that you created first as well. But it's a really simple repetition. Look how beautiful it looks. For the royal stitch, what you're going to create is an even number of chains. You're going to go to the second chain from the hook and you are going to create a UK double or a US single crochet on that first one, and we have to create a foundation of stitches, and it's going to be all UK doubles or US single crochets for the first row. All of this will depend on the width that you have created, so you just have to follow along the amount of stitches you have or chains that you have created for the width of the project that you want to create with this gorgeous stitch later on. Once you create that foundation, you're gonna chain one and turn, and then you're gonna yarn over, and on that first stitch from the hook, what you are going to work in there, it's going to be a UK half treble or a US half double crochet in there, and you're gonna do the same on the next stitch, and you're gonna do it over and over again in the stitches on your entire row. Then this is our front part of a chain, and then that's our stitch. Okay, so that's the front loop, back loop, and then we have what some people like to call the third loop, which is that one in there, and that's where we're going to be working for row number 3. Okay, and this is what is gonna create the shape of what we need for this stitch. So you're gonna yarn over, insert it in that loop in there only, and in there what you're going to create is, again, you're gonna create half treble on the UK or half double crochets on the US. You're gonna open a little bit your stitches to find it. It's just facing you, is that first loop that pops in there rather than the normal V stitches that we create. You're gonna do that until the end, and even on the last one you're gonna do it as well. Then for the next row we're gonna do exactly the same, and we're gonna work again only that front loops again. So this is what is going to create the shape of what we need, which you see is really beautiful. And do this as many rows as you need until you reach the length of your project. For the herringbone stitch, we are going to create an even number of stitches. Go to the 4th chain from the hook, and what you're going to do is yarn over, insert your hook and pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook. Then you're going to pass it through the first one. Now you have 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pass it through the first one again, yarn over and pass it through 2. And that's the stitch that you're going to be creating in this type of stitch. So you're gonna yarn over again, insert it, and then repeat again by passing that first loop from the second, yarn over, and then you will have 2 loops, pass it through the first, and then yarn over and pass it through the next 2. You're gonna repeat this all the way down until you reach the end. Then you're gonna chain 4. In the first chain from the hook, we're not gonna do anything from the chain, and then in the second one is where we're gonna start to create again the same sort of stitches over and over again. For the spider stitch, you need an odd number. You're gonna go to the second chain from the hook, and in there what you're gonna work is gonna be an UK double or a US single crochet. You're gonna chain 1, and in the same space you're again going to create the same. Then after you've done that, you're gonna skip 1 chain or 1 stitch later on, and then you're again gonna create another group of stitches separated by 1 chain. This is what you have to do the entire project around by chaining 1, turning and continue working. And then on the next rounds, what you're going to do is you're going to work in the chain spaces that you have created in the middle, and this is gonna create a curvy effect, so pretty. And as you can see, it's a really, really easy pattern to follow. You just have to always remember you will be working inside the chain spaces on the next rows. Enjoy this stitch.
For the arrow stitch, you need a foundation chain of multiple of 4 plus 2. You're going to go to the second chain from the hook, and what you're going to do is you're going to create a foundation of stitches, and this one is really important because on these ones is where we're going to create the arrows later on. So you're going to work on the first one UK double or US single crochet. And what you're going to do right now is you're going to go to the next one, do the same stitch again. So you have created 2 for the very beginning. Then you create 3. Okay, you have 1, 2, and 3 in there. And here comes the gap that you're going to create from where the arrows are going to come up from. Okay, so you're going to chain 1 now. That's your gap. Mark it up if you need to. You're going to skip 1, and then again you're going to do another repetition of 3 stitches again. Chain 1, skip 1, and go. So do this along your entire chain foundation, and then I see you at the end to create the second foundation row. Chain 2, 3, and 10. And then this is the second foundation that we have to create. And over in here, what we're going to do is on the not the first one under the chains, but the second one, because our chains count as a stitch. What we are going to do is we're gonna yarn over in there, okay, and then the stitch that you're gonna work this time is gonna be a UK treble or a US double crochet. So the first chains count as a stitch, and then you have another one, okay. That's what we have created right now. Then what we're going to do now is we're going to create a foundation of them. So you're going to create one of them on each stitch from the previous row all the way down. And once you've finished this row, then is where I'm going to see you, and we're going to start creating the arrows. To create the arrows, you are going to chain 1 and turn. Then on the first one, you're going to create a UK double or US single crochet. There we go. You have the first one to start. Then you're going to go to the next space, and you're going to create another UK double or a US single crochet. And we are going to start creating the arrows from here. Remember the stitches that I was saying to you before, the gaps? Well, those gaps are the ones that are important right now. And you need to remember that we started by creating 2 UK doubles or US singles, and then we create 1 and then a chain space, right? That we create a gap in there. Well, in that gap, what we are going to do is we are gonna do a stitch inside there, and then we're gonna work all of those chain ones that we skip from before as well. And you're gonna do a UK double treble crochet or a US treble crochet. And how you're gonna do it is give yourself some space with the loops, and then insert it from under to the front, and then start creating the treble or double treble or treble, depend the terminology that you prefer to use, okay? So this goes the very beginning of how are we created. So we start with the chain 1 and the single crochet or double crochet if you are in terminology of the UK. Then you have 1 stitch in the back which belongs to the post, and then you're going to do 1 double UK single crochet or a US single crochet, and then you're going to skip 1, chain 1, and then do it again. So we are kind of repeating the same time before, and this skip 1, it's going to be for the next row of arrows later on that we need it. Okay, I hope it makes any sense what I'm trying to explain in here, because the foundations that we create in the back is what is gonna create our pattern in the in now and then in the future rows. So you can see the gap. So where is the gap of the skip stitch? There is where you have to create your next arrow space. In this case, you're gonna go back to where you just have done the one before, because obviously the arrow is kind of like a V stitch that you have to create, right? So then you're gonna go in there again, and you're gonna start doing the stitch, but you're not gonna finish it. You're gonna leave it in there, and then you're again gonna do 2 loops on your hook. You're gonna find the next space of chain space or skip stitch that you did previously, however you prefer to see it. This one is the trickiest one, by the way, because it's the first one. In the next one, you kind of see a lot easier where you have to go, okay? So you're gonna go in there, and then you're gonna do the stitch, and you're gonna finish these stitches. So you're doing 2 stitches in one go, because that's where it's gonna create the V or the arrow pointy space, okay? Then remember the one that comes from our loops or our panels, and then we're gonna again do the same. So you do the stitch, chain 1, skip 1, and then the stitch, and you're gonna repeat this all the way along until you reach the end. By the end, you should have only one done, like at the beginning. Then you're gonna chain 3, and now we need to create another foundation of stitches. So what we're gonna create now, you're gonna skip the one from your chains, and then you're gonna go on the next one, and what you're going to do again, it's going to be UK treble crochet or US double crochets. This is another foundation because we need a height, we need a space in between the arrows, okay? Then you're gonna go to the next one, chain 1, do 1 UK double or US single crochet, and analyze where your arrows are right now. You're not gonna follow where did you put your arrows before. No, you're gonna find the gap. Do you see how good is visible right now in here? And you're gonna create the arrows here in that space in between. So by the time you create these new arrows, it's gonna be in between the other arrows from previously. And I hope that makes sense. The first one goes on its own. Then you're going to create 1 UK double or US single crochet, and then chain 1, do it again, skipping 1, and that is when you create 2 stitches together for the next one. So you go back to where you just come from to create the first one, you don't finish it, and then you go to the other space, and then you do the other one. Because remember, that's what we did in the previous row before. And this is the repetition you have to follow along all the way. It's not as difficult as it sounds. It's just paying attention or where your gaps of your stitches are. So there I have my V. So I'm going to go to my space in between and then work. And repeat this as long as you need to create the length of your project that you desire. And this is going to create the space that you need and the beauty of this. I love this stitch, to be honest. It looks amazing and I hope you like it. Version number 2 of the puff stitch. Do an even number of chains, go to the second chain from the hook and do 1 UK double or US single crochet, and do this across the entire foundation chain because this is your foundation of stitches you need before you can start doing your puff stitches. Once you've done that, chain 1. On the first one, again, you're going to do 1 UK double or US single crochet. You're going to yarn over and go to your next space. And in that next space, you're going to start taking loops to create the puff. So you're going to yarn over, give a little bit of space. You have 3 loops on the hook. You're going to yarn over again, 4 loops, insert it and pull. You have 5. And you're going to do this again until you have 11 loops on your hook. Over and over again. The difference between this puff stitch and the one before is that the way how we close the puffs, okay? And it's so simple, this one, that is only about doing puff stitches. Next row is gonna be UK doubles or US single crochets and puff stitches and back again until you finished. So once you've done the enough loops that you need on your hook, remember you need to have 11 loops on your hook, you're gonna pull through all of them. And how you're going to close the puff stitch this time is you're going to pull quite tight, go to the next stitch and do an UK double crochet or UK single crochet on the next one, and you have closed your puff stitch. Then you will pop it to the other side. Then you're going to do to the next one, and then straight away you're going to start doing another puff, and you have to do this all the way down. And when you reach the last one, you're going to do 1 UK double or US single crochet to close this row, which again is going to be the close of your last puff. You're going to chain 1 and turn to create the next foundation for your puff stitches, because also now you are facing the front of your puff stitches. We're gonna be doing 1 UK double or US single crochet on every single stitch, and you're always working the puff stitches when you are on the back of them. Just to let you know, repeat along and you are done. For the bubble stitch, we're gonna do an even number of stitches, and same like the puff stitch before, you're gonna start doing UK double crochets or US single crochets from the second chain from the hook all the way down to create your foundation of stitches. And after that, you're gonna chain 1 and turn, go to the first one and repeat the same stitch again. You're gonna yarn over, you're gonna go to the next space that you have available, the next stitch. You have 3 loops on your hook, you're gonna yarn over and you're gonna pull through 2, and then you're not gonna finish this stitch just yet. What you're gonna do is you're gonna yarn over again, you're gonna go in the same stitch, and then you're gonna do it again, and then you're gonna do it again. So we have done it 3 times now. You're gonna do it one more time, that is 4. So you have 5 loops on your hook actually, and then you're gonna yarn over and you're gonna do it one more time. Okay, keep counting the loops that you have on your hook. So by now you should have 6 loops on your hook, made of the half of the stitches that you have created. Yarn over and pull through all of them, and then you're gonna give yourself a little bit of a space. Pull that stitch to the back of yourself right now, but that's gonna be the front of your project. Go to the next stitch on the side, and then you're gonna do an UK double or US single crochet, and that completes your stitch. Now you're gonna go to the next one, and then you're going to repeat again the same thing until you reach the end of your row. Once you have done that, you're gonna chain 1, and then you're going to work UK doubles or US single crochets all the way along. We're creating another foundation row to create more of these stitches, and once you finish, that will be also your final row. For the popcorn stitch, you need any number of stitches that you desire. You're gonna go to the second chain from the hook, and you're gonna create a UK double or a US single crochet, and you're gonna repeat this across the entire chain foundation, because this is gonna be your foundation chains to start creating your design. After that, you're gonna chain 1, you're gonna turn around, you're gonna go to the first one and do again the same stitch just to start this row. Then you're gonna yarn over, you're gonna insert your hook on the next stitch, and then you are going to do a number of stitches inside that same space, and you're working right now UK trebles or US double crochets, and you're gonna do 5 of them. Once you have created 5 of them, you're gonna let go of that. You're gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You're gonna go to the 5th one. Right before the 5th one, in there, you're gonna insert your hook, grab the loop from your last stitch, pull it tight, okay? Don't let it be that loose, okay? Pull it really tight, and then you're gonna do a slip stitch to close that stitch. I know it's not gonna be easy, especially because you need to push the stitch, push the popcorn to the front. That's going to complete it, and then you're gonna go to the next one and do an UK double or US single crochet. Then you're gonna go to the next stitch, and you're gonna repeat absolutely the same that you just done right now before. So you're creating another popcorn. This is a really easy pattern to do. You just have to be really careful to never lose the loop from the last one. That's why pull it slightly, and once you have it, then you pull your loop and then your tail, and then you make sure you have it secure. And as well, count always your stitches to make sure you are inserting it on the same one, because when you're creating a lot of them, sometimes you get lost of where you are at all times. But basically, this is the repetition. You're gonna continue across the entire row of the first one where you're creating them. The difference will come on the next row. You need to create another foundation of stitches, and also this is how it's gonna be your final row, which is creating UK double crochets or US single crochets across, and that will end this stitch. For the honeycomb, you need a foundation of even numbers of chains, and then you are going to go to the second chain from the hook, and you're gonna do 1 UK double or US single crochet, and you're gonna create 2 rows of these stitches as foundation to be able to start creating this shape. So repeat this twice. Once you have done it, chain 1, go to the first stitch after the chain, and create another UK double or US single crochet. And now is when we're gonna start this shape. So you have 2 rows worked in here and you have a gap in between them, okay? That's the separation between one stitch and another. And now to create this shape, we're gonna be working down to the first row that we created, kind of like in between the first stitch and the chains that we create as the foundation, okay? So you have 1, 2, and then 3, let's say 3 levels. So you're gonna insert your hook in there, you're gonna yarn over, pull your yarn from there, pull your loop up, 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 straight your pattern, there we go, and then you are going to yarn over and pull through both of the loops in there. There we go, you have that panel in there right now created. Then you're kind of skipping one stitch, which is the one that belongs to this loop that you just put on the front. You're gonna go to the next one, and what you're gonna do on the next one is gonna be an UK double or US single crochet. There we go. So that's the space gap in between, and then it's a repetition that you have to make. You just have to make sure you are taking the exact stitch that goes in front of the next stitch, if that makes any sense. And you're gonna repeat this across the entire row all the way until the end. Once you've done that, you're gonna chain 1 and turn. And now look what we have on the back. We have these V loops. So you're gonna do 1 stitch at the very beginning, 1 UK double or a US single. You're gonna go on the next one and do another one. And what we are doing right now is we have to work on those loops that we have created previously, right? So we have now V's, and what we are going to do is we're gonna take one side of one and one side of another to create the next one, if that makes any sense to you. So you're gonna take, there you go, 2 V's, right? Entire V. So you're gonna take this loop in here, if I can insert it, there we go. And then this loop in here. So you're going across both of them. So what you're going to do is give yourself a little bit of a space on your hook, insert it in one, and then go to the next one, insert it in there again. And then now what we're gonna do is yarn over, you're gonna pull it through both. You have 2 loops on your hook, and then you're gonna yarn over and pull through 2. So now that V has become another extra V, if that makes sense, okay? I hope you can see how easy it is. You leave the first panel in there, but now that V that you have before has been divided and connected to one. So now you go to the next space, and then you do again another UK double or US single, and you're gonna repeat this along the entire pattern. And this is all about this gorgeous stitch. Is just take 2 panels from 2 different V's and convert it into one for the next row. That's all what you have to do over and over again for this stitch, which again is really simple and easy, and I hoped you have liked it. And then what you're gonna do for the next one, when you start, you're gonna start by taking 1 loop at the very beginning. You're gonna create an extra loop in there, so you will be able to start working on the next. So you're gonna kind of skip one, which belongs to that loop, and then do a stitch in there. And then now you can take the previous row's V, okay? So over in there, you're gonna go to the previous ones. There we go. So you have 1, 2, and 3, and you're gonna follow to pull a loop again. So when we are on one side, when we don't see the V's, we're gonna create more loops. When we see the V's, we connect them together. That's the secret of this stitch, okay? And again, you're gonna follow this along until you have them, and you're gonna do this as many times as you want to look how gorgeous it looks. The diamond stitch requires a multiple of 4 plus 1. You're gonna go to the second chain from the hook, and you're gonna do a UK double or US single crochet, and you're gonna follow this and repeat it across the entire foundation chain that you have created, which remember is a multiple of 4 plus 1. This is the beginning of how we are going to start these gorgeous diamond stitches. So continue until the end, and I see you on row 2. Row 2, you're gonna chain 2 and turn. And then in that first stitch, starting from the hook, what you're going to do is you are going to work another foundation row
of UK treble crochets or US double crochets. So you need 2 rows of foundation before you can do the diamond shape. So follow along the entire row doing the same chains, and then we need to observe the gaps that we have in between the single crochets and the double crochets on the US, or the double crochets and treble crochets on the UK, okay? You're gonna chain 3, roll your yarn twice, go down to that first single crochet down in there, and then you're gonna be working a double treble crochet on the UK or a treble crochet on the US. Okay, there we go. The first one, you're kind of pulling that first stitch from down to up, and then now what you're going to do, you have to skip one because that one represents the stitch that you just created right now. You're gonna go to the next one, okay, and on the next one, what you are going to do is a UK double or a US single crochet, and you're gonna repeat that twice more, and that is gonna be the gap in between the diamonds, because you need to create a gap so you can see properly the stitch coming up. I hope that makes a little bit of sense of what you have to do. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go back to where you just been. So give yourself some space and insert it on top of that treble that you did before, the double treble or the treble, depends how you are doing it. And then this is a front post stitch that you're doing right now, okay? So then you're going to, don't finish it, you're gonna leave it as it is right now. And then what you are going to do right now, it's going to be, you're gonna go to the next stitch that it's required, like the ones that you just did on the top. Okay, you're gonna go to the next one. It's kind of like a skipping 2 spaces, and that is where you're gonna start creating your next diamond shape. Okay, so you're gonna roll it again around your hook, go to that one that you just didn't work on the top, yeah, remember? And then in there you're gonna finish this stitch, and that's what is going to create kind of like a V shape at the moment that we have to finish on the next few rows. When you have 3 loops on your hook, just yarn over and pull through 3 of them, and as you can see, it's a V shapes that you're creating on this round. Then for the next one, you're chaining 3, and after you chain 3, you're gonna do it twice over your hook, the loop, and then you are going to work on the first stitch, 1 double treble crochet on the UK or a treble crochet on the US, and you're gonna yarn over, and what you're gonna do is on the next stitch you're going to work 1 UK treble crochet or US double crochet, and you're gonna repeat this along the entire row foundation that we have to create again. Then you're gonna chain 2 and turn, and now we're on the front of our diamonds, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna work holding the previous panel that you've done before. You're not gonna finish the stitches, you're just going to leave it from there, and then you're gonna go to the next one, and then you're gonna finish the stitch. So you're doing front panels by holding the previous one before, and that is what is going to create the other V shape, which completes the diamond. That's the diamond stitch, how you create it. And this is what you have to repeat along the rest of the rows that you will have to do for your project desired that you have in this case. So same that you did the width of foundation chains that you needed, now you're creating the length as you need it. And then remember that always have to be 3 UK double crochets or US single crochets gaps in between before you can create another of the diamond shape. I hope that makes sense, because that is the gaps you need to create, and that's it, finished. For the cluster stitch, you need a foundation chain of an even number. You're going to go to the second one from the hook, and what you're going to do, you're going to do an UK double or a US single crochet, depends on the terminology that you work on. And then you're going to repeat again another time. Then you're going to chain 1, and then you are going to skip 1 stitch. So that is the creation of this space, is the gaps that you're going to leave in between. So you chain 1 in there, skip 1, do 1 single crochet or double crochet on the UK on the
next one. And then you see you have leave a gap in there, chain one, and then skip one, go to the next one and do it again. And repeat this across the entire foundation row. Then you're gonna chain 3, 4, and 10. And then once you chain 4, you're gonna go to that loops gaps that you have created, the skipping 1. And what you're going to do is you're going to start what it seems like a treble crochet on the UK or a US double crochet. Okay, you will have 2 loops on your hook. You're gonna yarn over again, insert it on the same space, and then you're gonna pass it again through the first 2. So you have 3 loops and 2 unfinished stitches on your hook at the moment. You're gonna yarn over, you're gonna insert it again, and then you're gonna again pass it through the first 2. Now you have 4 loops and 3 unfinished stitches on your hook. You're gonna yarn over, and then you're gonna do that one more time. So by now you should have 5 loops on your stitch and on your hook and 4 stitches unfinished in your hook. Then you're going to yarn over and you're gonna pass it through all of them at one time, and that has created the cluster. Then you're gonna chain 1, you're gonna skip 1 and go to the next space, and you're gonna do it again. This is the mystery of the cluster stitch, which is really simple. You just have to make sure you make them all same and same tension. So if they are quite loose, they are all quite loose. If they are quite tight, they are all quite tight, because otherwise it's really visible that you have used different sort of tension in between them. And then what you have to do from here is just repeat this row as many times as you desire. And then to finish, you are gonna do a full row of UK doubles or US single crochets to finish, or you can finish as well with all slip stitches to close this project. Just that's my own way of finishing. I like to finish on clean lines, and that's going to give you a perfect clean line to finish. And remember that in all of your rows at the very end, you're always going to work a UK treble or a US double crochet, and then you're always going to chain 1. Then you have the clusters in between. Then you're going to work on the first one by doing a UK double or a US single crochet. And this is the separation between clusters, let's say. So the separations between clusters, it's going to be a foundation of the same that what you've done on row number 1, which is UK doubles or US singles, chain 1 and do it. Why? Because you need those chain and skip spaces to create the next clusters. So it's all a repetition of row 1 and 2, row 1 and 2, as long as you want it. And that's it, finished. For the camel stitch, you're going to create a foundation of any number of stitches that you want to. You're going to go to the 3rd chain from the hook. And then what you're going to work in this one, it's going to be an UK half treble crochet or a US half double crochet, which is past your loop through the 3 chains that you have. That's your foundation. For row number 2, you're going to chain 2. You're going to go to the front loop of that chain space in there. And then you are again going to repeat those stitches all over again. This is a really simple stitch, but it's create a really nice texture to make it a little bit look different than just a normal stitch. And it's just by working on the front loops of your stitches. So you have your front panels or your third panel. Sometimes some people call it like that. And this is how it look. So it's really pretty. And then what you're going to do for the next one, which is the trickiest one, now again, you have to work those, which is the 3rd panel, if you want to call it, or the 3rd loop, because you have the V, which has a front and a back panel. So you're going to chain 2. You're going to yarn over, turn your project, so it's kind of like looking across. And then you're going to do that front panel like that. And you're going to continue working those panels all the way down. Why? Because like this you can see them easily. If you were to put the stitch on a right direction from your project, how is it should be working, basically you won't be able to see that, and it's gonna be a lot trickier than if you are actually
working it this way. And then when you turn your project, look at me, I'm turning it right now. So it's in there, and I have this kind of like a 3D standing shape in there where I can see all the V's, and that's it. This is this jasmine stitch, really beautiful, really tricky. Do your slip knot, chain one, pull up your loop, okay, and then give yourself some space, yarn over, go back again inside that first chain that you have in there, then pull the loop again. So now you have 3 loops inside your hook. You're going to yarn over, okay, and then what you're going to do is insert it in that space again. So you're kind of like creating a puff inside that first chain that you have. So right now you have 5 loops on your hook, right? So what you're going to do right now, it's quite tricky, but just pay attention because it's not that difficult. You're gonna yarn over, and you're basically gonna pull through all of them. You have created a puff, yeah, coming from that first space in there. You're gonna go inside that space one more time, that first chain that you created, and then you're gonna pull the loop from there, and then you will have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through both of them. So you have created the first shape, puffy, however you want to call it, and you're going to repeat this again. So one more time, you're going to pull your loop, yarn over, and then now where you're going to go is going to be in between. You're going to leave 2 loops at the front and then 1 loop behind you, and then you're going to go in there, which is exactly on top of the previous cluster, puff, however you want to call it. There is where you have to go. And this is the foundation chain of this stitch. This is how you start this stitch. There's no actual foundation chain of chain stitches that you have to do. You just start creating the stitches straight away. So do that, and then do it as many times as you want to for your desired length. And once you've done that, I'm going to teach you how to do next row. For this being an example, I'm not going to create many of them, but you will create as many as you need to create the desired length that this project needs for you. Once you have finished your desired length, comes the time to work on row 2, which seems like we're going to still on row 1, because you're going to start doing the same thing that you've done before. The tricky thing will be now, you're going to move along the other stitches. So you are going to first pull until you have the 5 loops on your hook like normal. Then what you're going to do is you're going to find the next space of the other puff stitch or cluster that you've done previously. So there is in there, as you can see. So you're going to yarn over and you're going to go in there. One thing to keep in mind as well is when you're inserting your hook into them, you're taking like a V stitch with you. You're going under a V stitch, same like if you were to be working on any other stitch or in any other chain foundation, okay? So you are gonna go inside that stitch and you're gonna go inside the next one. You're gonna have 13 loops on your hook by the time you finished. But to make it easier to understand, you have to take a loop twice in every stitch, from the first one where you start and the next 2 others. Obviously my example is quite small, so you might not be able to fully see, and if you have a longer chain made, you will be able to see it better. And if like me, you're kind of struggling, you need to think there's so many stitches in one, just go slowly, keep coming out, check where you are and keep pulling until you pass through all of them. And once you've done that, you're gonna go through one of the loops of the stitch that you were just last working, and then you're gonna do yarn over and pull through. Then what you're gonna do for the next one, it's gonna be, you're gonna go in the center of that flower that you just made right now, and then again you're gonna go in twice to create your 5 loops, and then you're gonna yarn over again, and then you're gonna go into the other stitches either. Can you see where we are at? Like I have left 1 loop down below, and then I'm in 1 loop, and then what you are going to do is going to be still working in there before you move to the next one. So it's kind of like you're going through 1 loop of that stitch where you come from first, and then in another to make your 13, which it seems like you're on the same stitch, but you're not, you're in different loops. That's why keep an eye on where your loops are so you can close them down, and then now is where you can close that one again and you're done. It's really pretty, believe me. For the floral stitch, you are going to need an even number of foundation chains. Then you're going to go to the fourth chain from the hook, and there you're going to work what it is a UK half treble or a US half double crochet, and this is the foundation that you're going to create. You're going to repeat this along the entire foundation chain that you have created, whatever is the width that you have decided for your project or for your example. And then I'm going to see you at the end to move to the next row. Just make sure you work, as I say, UK half trebles or US half double crochets. Once you have done that, you're going to chain one, and then you're going to go, and in the first one, you're going to do a UK treble or a US double crochet. On the next one, you're going to do a slip stitch. You're going to repeat this along the entire row of stitches that you have prepared, okay? The combination of these two stitches. On the next one is an entire row of UK trebles or US doubles, and this is a repetition that you're going to repeat over and over again. One will be with the ones that include the slip stitch, and the other one will be only the UK treble or the US double, and then so on until you have your desired length. And just keeping in mind that you should always use as final row the one that uses only the UK treble or the US double crochet to absolute finished. Now is the block bed, and you need an even number of stitches for the chain foundation, and then you're going to jump to the third chain from the hook. There are two options to do row one. I've seen it both, and both look really pretty. I'm going to explain you both. First of all, you're going to go to the first two stitches that you have, and you're going to do a UK double or a US single crochet. On the next one, what you're going to do is you're going to do like if you are going to do a UK double or a US single crochet. So you're going to insert your hook and pull. The only difference is going to be that you're going to yarn over, you're going to pass it only through the first one, then you're going to yarn over, and then you're going to do it again. So that's a kind of like extended single crochet or double crochet on the UK. Otherwise, you can just do a normal foundation of that stitch only. For row two, you're going to chain two, and then what you're going to do is you're going to ignore the first stitch that is exactly underneath your chains, because you just work something out with those chains. You're going to go to the next one, and what you're going to do is you're going to yarn over, insert it into that stitch, and you're going to work a UK treble or a US double crochet in there. Then here comes the pattern. You're going to yarn over and insert it in between the chain spaces and that first stitch that you just did. Okay, you're going to give yourself some space by pulling a little bit the yarn. Then you're going to yarn over, and then you're going to go again inside in there. So you already have now 5 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over again, and you're going to insert it again. Okay, and then this is kind of like a cluster or a puff that you're creating in there, but it's going to look different. It's really pretty, this one. Then what you have to be really careful is you're going to yarn over, and then you're going to pull through all of them. Just make sure you go slowly. If it doesn't go in, means you have to give some more space. Use your fingers to pull down the project until you pass through it. To complete the stitch, what you're going to do is you're going to skip the next stitch, and then on the next one, you're going to do one extended UK double or US single crochet. And remember, that one was inserting your hook, pull, you have 2 loops, yarn over, pull through one, and then yarn over and pull through the other 2. So this is an extended stitch, and this completes the step. Okay, so from now on, remember, you have to do one UK treble or US double crochet. In there, you're going to do your cluster, which is do it until you have 7 loops on your hook. You're gonna yarn over and pull through all of them, skip one stitch, go to the next one, do an extended UK double or US single crochet, and complete it. You're gonna repeat this along the entire foundation of stitches that you have done, whichever is the width of your project. And then I'm going to teach you how to finish this project as well, because I think that's really important. At least me, I don't like to leave these type of projects where whatever is the top of the end of the length of my project and then just leave it like that. I always like to create another foundation of stitches, so my beautiful stitches are kind of like locked in between a foundation of them, if that makes any sense. I'm going to show you right now. Your first row of clusters will look like this. For the next one and for the last one, what you will do will be chain 2, and you're going to go on top of all of the clusters, and you're going to create one UK double or a US single crochet all along the row. And as I said, this will as well be your final row that you're going to do to create a closure in your project. For the spring stitch, you need a multiple of 3s plus 1 chain foundation. Then you're going to go to the 4th from the hook, and you're going to work a UK treble or a US double crochet, and then on the same stitch you're going to work another one. So you have worked 2 stitches on the same space, then you're going to chain 2. On the next stitch you're going to work again another 2 times the UK treble or the US double crochet. So you are working like a V stitch, and then you're going to put a chains in between. Then you're going to skip 2 chains, and then you're going to repeat this, which again is 2 UK treble or US double crochets, chain 2, and then on the next stitch again you're going to work 2 stitches together. And this is the repetition that you should follow all the way along your stitch chain foundation that you have done in here. And then on the last stitch you will do only one time this stitch. You won't do any more of this. You will start how you finished, and then you're going to chain 3 and turn. You're going to forget about the first stitch that is underneath your chain. You're going to straight away go to the chain spaces, and then in the chain spaces you're going to repeat absolutely the same, which is 2 stitches, 2 chains, 2 stitches. So that's the repetition you have to do for this pattern. And just keep it in mind that the first chain stitches that you did, those chains count as a stitch. So that's why you don't have to work anything underneath those chains. And this stitch is so easy, as you can see in here. And just keep going, and then in the last one remember to go on the top of the previous chains and then work only 1 stitch in there. And ta-da! That's it. You know how to do it. The wattle stitch need a foundation of multiples of 3 plus 1. You're going to go to the 3rd chain from the hook, and in that first chain what you're going to do is you're going to work 1 UK double or a US single crochet. You're going to chain 1, and on the same space you're going to work a UK treble or a US double crochet. Then you're going to skip 1, and then on the next stitch you're going to do exactly the same. And it's a pattern repetition of all of them, always remembering to skip 1, chain 1 in between them, and work 2 stitches on the same space. For the next row, on all the ones that are to come, you're going to chain 2, and what you're going to do is you're going to work the next group of stitches in the skip stitch in between the previous row. So when you look at the project, it's going to be one in between another, if that makes any sense. So skip until you find the space of the group of stitches, skip 1 group of stitches, and you're skipping 1 as well, doing this because you're skipping the space of the chain in between the others. For the lace cluster stitch, we are going to need a multiple of 4 plus 1. Then you're going to do your chains that you need, then you're going to do 3 more, and after you've done those 3 more, you're going to go to the bottom of those 3, which basically is the 4th from your chain. And then what you're going to work in there is you're going to yarn over, insert it on that 1/4. I like to always hold it in there so I know where I'm going. And then you're going to work a UK treble or a US double crochet. So then you have those chains that represent 1 stitch, and then you have another one on the bottom. That's what we're doing right now for this stitch. And then you're going to chain 2. And what you're going to do is you're going to yarn over, and in the same stitch you're going to go in again and work again the same stitch. So you have 2 stitches worked on 1 stitch chain, and then you have 2 chains in between. Then you're gonna skip 2, and then you're gonna go to the 3rd chain, and then here is where we're gonna start creating our pattern. So you're gonna yarn over, insert your hook in there, and then you're gonna pull the loop. You have 3 loops on your hook. Pull a little bit to give a little bit of a space to yourself, yarn over and insert it again. Again, give yourself a space, yarn over, insert it again, give more space to yourself, yarn over and insert it again. And then what you're going to do right now, make sure you have space, because otherwise your hook will not pass through it. You're gonna yarn over and you're gonna pass it through all of them. And then you're going to do a slip stitch on the top, or a chain 1, depends how you like to call it. You're gonna pull that a little bit back, because we're working right now on the back of our stitches, okay? You're gonna go again to the 3rd chain, so you're gonna skip 2 and then go to the 3rd one. And then this time, what you're gonna do on the 3rd one is gonna be 1 UK treble or a US double crochet. So we're kind of repeating what we've done before, chain 2, and in the same space, you're gonna again do another UK treble or US double crochet. Then what we're gonna do, we're gonna skip 3 and we're gonna do the cluster one more time. So this is the repetition you have to do along all the project, always remembering that the last stitch that you should be doing by when you reach the slip knot is going to be only one stitch, which is represents what you've done at the beginning by skipping the chains. That's really important. Then to the next one, you're gonna chain 3 and you're gonna go to the chain 2 that you've done in between stitches before, and over in there you're gonna work a cluster, and then you're gonna close it same way that you've done before. And what you're gonna do right now is you have the next cluster, all right, and then you have the next chain spaces from the stitches we've done before, right? So on top of the cluster, you're gonna go in there. Do you see that little loop from the chain 1 or from the slip stitch that you have done? So over in there, you're gonna do the other V section space, which is 1 stitch, chain 2 and 1 stitch. Then you will jump to the next chain spaces from before and then do another cluster. And this is how this project look like. For the crunch stitch, we are gonna need an even number of stitches. Then you're gonna go to the 2nd chain from the hook, and what you're going to work in there is gonna be a slip stitch, which is just pass the loop through it. So you're gonna yarn over, go to the next one, and in the next one you're gonna do an UK half treble crochet or a US half double crochet. Sorry, I get confused sometimes by saying it into different ones, okay? And then what we are going to do right now is going to be go to the next one, and then on the next one, what you're gonna do again is gonna be another slip stitch, and then on the next one, you're gonna do another half treble on the UK or half double crochet on the US. And this is the pattern repetition for your first row of stitches, which is gonna be as long as whatever width you have decided to create for this. Then you're gonna chain 2 and you're gonna turn your project. And then what you're going to do right now is you're gonna observe the stitches that you have. You have the stitch right underneath your chains, and then you have the next stitch space, which is the slip stitch, which I recommend you leave a little bit of space so you have space enough to insert your hook. Otherwise it's gonna be extremely challenging. You're gonna skip that first one where you just have create your chains, and then you're gonna go into the next one, and then in there you're gonna do another slip stitch in there. As I say, try to do it quite loose, otherwise it's gonna be really hard to insert your hook in there. And then on the next space you're gonna go and then you're gonna work again a UK half treble or a US half double crochet, and repeat this along the entire row and the entire project actually until you reach the length of the desired project that you have. Just keep in mind to leave some space for the slip stitches. For the cobble stitch, you need a multiple of 2 plus 1 chains. You're gonna go to the 2nd chain from the hook, and then in there you're gonna work a UK double or a US single crochet. That's the one that you're gonna work at the very beginning. And then what you're gonna do from there is you're gonna go to the next one, and then on the next one what you're going to do is again the same stitch, and you're gonna go to the next one and you're gonna do again the same stitch. You're gonna repeat this along the entire chain foundation. Then you're gonna chain 1 and turn. you're gonna go to the first stitch right underneath your chains, and again you're gonna work the same stitch. Then you're gonna yarn over twice, and you're going to do a UK double or a US treble crochet. And then what you're going to do is on the next stitch you're gonna go and then you're gonna do a UK double or a US single crochet, and then on the next one we are doing the double treble or the treble, depends the terminology that you are following, and that's what you have to repeat across your entire foundation of stitches. Then you're gonna chain one, and then we are going to be doing this all over again. This time on the next one, yes, you're gonna do one double or single crochet, depending the terminology that you follow on the first one, and then on the next one, then again you're gonna do the double treble or the treble crochet on the next space. And this is basically how this stitch work is really easy, and it's looked really nice because it has a really nice texture. For the grid stitch, you're gonna need an even number of chains. Then you're gonna go to the second one from the hook, and you're gonna work a UK double or a US treble crochet on that first, well, it's the second chain from the hook, but the first chain that we are working on, that's what I meant. And then what we are going to do from there is going to be working a repetition of stitches. So you're gonna skip one, and then on the second one that you have in there, okay, leaving one space, you're gonna again work another stitch twice on the same space. So it's kind of like you're doing an increase in there. Okay, just remember there is a skip chain in between both of them. So then for the next stitches, it's just the same. You're gonna skip one and then two stitches on the same one. Then you're gonna chain two, and then exactly underneath your chain spaces, you're gonna work one UK double or the US single crochet. Then you're gonna skip one, and on the next space you are again doing two stitches together. So again, it's like you're doing increases, and you're gonna again repeat this all the way along, which is skip one, do one increase of stitches, and then skip one, and then do an increase of stitches. And this is what basically completes this stitch, which is really simple, but as well it creates a really nice texture. Now we have the knit first stitch, and you need an even number of stitches. You're gonna go to the fourth chain from the hook, and then what you're gonna do on that stitch is going to be working in the back loop and the third loop. Can you see how I'm taking like a V, but it's the back loop and the third loop. Remember I said at the beginning of the video we have the V, which is front and back loop, and then we have the third loop. Well, here 1 2 3 4, you're gonna take the back loop and the third loop, yarning over, okay, and then you're gonna pull your yarn through there, and the stitch that you're gonna work in here, it's gonna be the UK half treble or the US half double crochet. Okay, so right now you should have one loop underneath, and then that's it, because you have to the other two loops. Many people don't know that actually a chain space, you actually, when you do it, or a stitch, you build up 3 loops, not 2. Then you're gonna go to the next one and do the absolute same. I know this one is gonna take you a little bit longer if you are not used to work in the stitches this way, but just be patient, and it's really crucial for this stitch that you take both of these loops all the way. And you're gonna repeat this all the way along down your chain foundation that you have done. And just remember that in this case you have to see like you're taking a V, but rather than be the front and back loop, there's gonna be the the back and the third loop. Then you're gonna chain 2 and turn, and then here we have again what is the third loop, which right now is facing us. So you're gonna go in there and you're gonna work the same stitch right into there, all the way doing the same stitch. And the tricky one on this one, it is that actually right now is so easy because we can see the third loop. Now we're not working anymore back loop and third loop. No, we are only working on what is the third loop. Then for the next one, you're gonna chain 2, and then you're gonna work the back loops right now in here for the next round. So you're kind of combining the loops that you're taking in every row, and this is what is gonna create the knit effect. For the ripple stitch, you're gonna need a chain of multiples of 12 plus 3. Then you're gonna jump to the fourth chain from the hook, and in the fourth chain from the hook, you're gonna work a UK treble or a US double crochet. Just make sure you're on the fourth when you start, because that's really important. And then those chains that we are leaving behind count as a stitch for the upcoming rows, so keep that in mind, that that's why you need to do it in there. So right now you already have worked 2 stitches, if that makes any sense right now. But yeah, you have to finish when you do next row in there on top of those chains to complete what it will have been the row one. Okay, so we're gonna yarn over again. You're gonna go to the next stitch, and what you're going to do is, again, you're gonna work the same stitch, and you're gonna do this for 5 times. So you're gonna have the chain spaces plus you have worked 4 more of these stitches, okay? Because as I said, chain counts as a stitch, so keep that in mind, that right now you have 4 stitches worked from the beginning, and then comes the time to create something a little bit different on the next stitch. Okay, so just keep a little bit of attention, because it may seems like difficult, but it's really simple once you get the hold of it. Okay, so what we're gonna do next, it's going to be, we're gonna yarn over, we're gonna go to the next stitch space in there, you're gonna insert it, pull a loop, you have 3 loops on your hook, give yourself a little bit of a space, yarn over, and you're gonna pass it through the first 2. So that is an unfinished stitch. Okay, then what you're gonna do, you're gonna yarn over again, you're gonna go to the next stitch, and then now you have 4 loops on the hook, you're gonna yarn over, pull, you have 3 now, because you have another unfinished stitch in there. Okay, this is unfinished stitches when you just leave them like that, and then you're gonna yarn over and pull through 3 of them. So it's kind of like you work 2 unfinished stitches together, or 2 stitches together, but some people, when you say 2 stitches together, they think you're doing decreases. That's why I don't like to say that. Then you're gonna go to the next space, and you're gonna repeat exactly the same, which is the yarning over, and then do an unfinished stitch, go to the next stitch next to it, and then do another unfinished stitch, and then you're going to yarn over and then pull through all of them, boom, and then you have already worked 2 of them. So right now we have to create a going up and down, okay, on this stitch, because this is what is this stitch about. So you're gonna go to the next stitch, and then on the next stitch what you're gonna do is just 1 single UK treble or US double, and you're gonna repeat this for 3 times on the next 3 stitches. Okay, that's what you're doing right now. So with the 2 together that we have done, we have created a curvature that now goes down, and then this is the beauty of this stitch, is the going up and down. I hope I'm making it as clear as possible for this one. That's why I'm going 1 step at a time. So on the next one, what we are going to do again is work a UK treble or a US double crochet, and what you're going to do is you're going to work 2 together. So you're going to work like an increase in that stitch. So again, as you can see, the curvature is just changing slightly. Then you're gonna go to the next stitch and do another increase. So all of these combinations of stitches is what create the shape of this beautiful pattern. Okay, I really like it. And then what you're going to do right now is you're gonna go to the next stitch, and on the next stitch you're gonna work only 1 of the stitches, and you're gonna repeat this for the next 3 stitches. That's what you're doing. Again, you're creating that, and then again we're creating another up and down on the stitch. And then we don't have a few much left, but then what we have to do right now is going to create again the going down of the stitches, if that makes any sense. So you're gonna yarn over, and then you're gonna do again the unfinished 2 stitches together. So remember, how was it? Like you pass it only through 2, and then go again, and then you pass it through 3. So that's what you're going to do again. And then you are going to have to repeat that as many times as you did on the other side, which in this case is going to be twice, remember? So we've done there in one unfinished, then we're gonna do the other unfinished stitch over in there. There we go. And then now we only have a few stitches left, and then we have to kind of finish it how we started as well. So like that, the pattern is kind of like a wave following one way or another. So how we started was with the stitches on its own, and that's what you have to repeat again. So you're gonna go to the next one next to it, and remember we're working UK trebles or US double crochets in there, which is a really basic stitch. The only difficulty of this stitch is where are you at all times to create the pattern. And then as you can see in here, you are creating like at the beginning the last four stitches, okay, to finish. So that's how you have done this. This stitch is really beautiful, and the funny thing about it, to make it even more beautiful, you can actually combine different colors, and then it's even more visible how is it look, the shape, because it's like a wave of multiple colors. Here you have how is it look, the going up and down. Obviously the longer you do this, the longer it's gonna look. That's why it's really important the amount of stitches that you do. Then you're gonna chain 4 to 10, and what you're gonna do from now is the same repetition of what we've done in row 1. The only difference that here you're gonna insert your hook inside the first stitch that is coming from the chain, and then you're gonna work there your first UK treble or US double, and then you're gonna repeat across the entire same step that we've done before. So we're starting with 4 UK trebles or US double crochets, then we're doing the 2 together, then we're doing the other ones, and so on. And this is all the repetition you're gonna do for as long as the length of your project that you want to do. And as I say, I suggest you combine colors because it's gorgeous, the result. For the crocodile stage, you have to do a multiple of 6 plus 3, and then you're gonna skip until the 7th chain from the hook. That's why I suggest you, if you're doing an example, do it quite big, because otherwise, as you can see, you will be already halfway through your chains if it's not completely done, okay? So at least do 2 or 3 groups of 6 plus 3. So what you're gonna do there, make sure you are on your 7th chain from there, and then you're gonna insert your hook, and then on the first one what you're gonna do is a UK treble or a US double crochet, and then you're gonna do 2 of them on the same stitch. So how is it gonna look is you like have a really long loop of chains on one side plus 2 stitches together. Then you're gonna chain 1, you're gonna skip 2, and on the third one you're going to work only 1 UK treble or US double crochet. Okay, that's the repetition. So what you have to do after you've done that is you're gonna chain 1, that is your separation in space. Then you're gonna again skip 2, and then on the third one what you're going to do once more is the repetition of the 2 stitches together. Okay, that is the repetition. You're gonna follow along the entire first foundation of stitches, which is gonna be our foundation to be able to start creating the scales of the crocodile on top of them. And it's really important you don't skip any of them, because the doubles is where the scale is gonna go, and the singles is a space that we need to have to do the connection between one scale and another. I hope that makes sense. So once you're done, what you're gonna do is you're gonna chain 2, and then you're gonna go to the front post of the first group that you have, and then over in there what you're gonna do, okay, taking only one of them, you don't take 2, you take only one of them, you're underneath of it, you're gonna work the front post by doing a UK treble or a US double. And then at the moment it looks really weird, but don't worry, because we're gonna turn, so soon it's gonna be easier to do it. And you're gonna repeat this for 5 times on only this front post. Once you have done 5 stitches on that front post, what you're gonna do then is you're gonna turn your project and you're gonna repeat the same on the other post. Remember that I told you we were creating the scales on the stitches where we have done the double. Right now, I know it's quite tricky if you're not used to, but you can see now half of the scale is done. So now you need to move to the other side. So move your project as best as you can to give you access to the stitch that is next to it to be able to work the other half of the scale. And this is the trickiest, let's say, part of this stitch, but this stitch is really easy. It's look far more complicated than what it is, because look, now I just turn my project and then I just have to yarn over and then work in there my other 5 UK trebles or US double crochets, and then like that I'm going to finish what the scale of this stitch is. By the way, while I'm showing to you how to do this, I'm just gonna let you know that I'm gonna show you really quickly in here how to increase the amount of scales that you have in your project and how to decrease them, because sometimes you're gonna see on the next row that we're gonna have one extra, and if you were to continue the same way, you're gonna make more and more and more until you have kind of like a V shape of crocodile scales. And some people don't want that. Some people want to create a full straight line. And I want to say this now because you have to be really careful on whatever the notes you're taking right now or how you read a pattern, okay? Well, once we have finished to do the first scale, remember there was one stitch alone on its own than in between, right? So that stitch is important right now because we need to connect one scale to another, and I don't suggest you just go and escape that one and then go and work the next scale because it's not gonna look good. So you're gonna go in there, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna do a slip stitch in there. So that's gonna first close one scale and second move you to the next space, and then from here on you just have to repeat the same thing over and over again, which is go to the next one, do 5 stitches on one front panel and then the other. So you have 3 in this case for me. Then you're gonna chain 3 and turn on the first stitch from underneath the chains. Be really careful, do not take the scale. As you can see here, I trap my scale. No. Don't trap the scale. Take only the stitch right behind it. And then over in there, work a stitch. Then you're going to chain 1. Then you're going to go to the middle of your scale, okay? Over in there. You can either go to the middle or go to the first stitch. It's entirely up to you. And you're going to work another stitch again. And then you're going to go to the in-between the scales. Again, look for the stitch. Do not take the scales. You need to take the stitch, and that's really important. Otherwise, it's going to be really visible that you took the wrong space. And what you're doing in here, you're going to build up another row to be able to continue doing it. And once you've done that, we are going to chain 1 and turn, and then you're going to start working your scales in there. Because of how we have finished in here, when I do it, which I'm going to repeat the same, rather than finish with 3 scales, I'm going to finish with 4 scales. This is what I was explaining before, that if you do it this way, you're basically increasing the amount of scales that you're doing, which again, I don't think is bad. You can do a combination of 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, and it's going to look really pretty. But if you were to want to do only 3 all the time, I'm going to show you in a moment how to reduce that and how to create only 3 of them. Because right now, if we were to repeat the same that we just done for the row 3, where we've done all these panels again to create scales, the next row is going to be 1 more, and then the next row is going to be 1 more. So as I say, you're going to have like a V shape of it, which again, is all depends on the project that you're doing. It might look really pretty for certain things, but not for every. You can see in here, I'm going to show you the 2 ways, because we have 3 scales, then we have 4. If I was to continue, I'm going to make you increase. So first of all, this is if you want to increase. You're going to chain 3 and turn. And what you're going to do is you're going to work on that first stitch that you have in there. So then you're going to go to the in between the scales, and then you are going to work in there 2 stitches together. So that will be our increase in there, plus we have the first one from the chain, and then you will be to go in between scales, and then in between scales you will create only one, and then so on. If you want to reduce, so what you're going to do is you're going to chain 4, and that chain 4 we're going to leave it there, and then we're going to go to the in between scales straight away. You are not going to touch that first scale that we've done, which is going to leave the stitches in there, and then you are going to, in the between the scales, that's where you're going to create the first group. Then the next scale is going to be a single, and so on. So what you have created in here is you have jump 1 stitch, and then that way you're getting back to 3. So that is the little secret that you have. But then again, as I say, you can always combine between 3/4, 3/4, and it looks gorgeous. This is an incredibly beautiful stitch to work on and create so many projects. So I hope you like it, because it's not as difficult as it looked like. Then we have the waffle stitch. The waffle stitch need a multiple of 3 plus 2. And then we're going to go to the second chain from the hook, and on the second chain from the hook we're going to work a UK treble or a US double crochet, and this is the stitch that we're going to be working all the way along. Okay, so after that one, what you're going to do is you're going to go on your next stitch from the chain foundation that you have created, and you're going to repeat again the same stitch, and you're going to repeat this across the entire first row foundation of stitches, because you have to create a foundation of stitches first before we can create the texture of the waffle, which is a lot easier than you could possibly imagine. Believe me, it's look more intimidating than it actually is this stitch. So far I have created 3 for you, and then you just have to move along and keep going through all the stitches over and over again. Then over in there, you're going to chain 2. You're going to go to the first one that you have underneath your chains. And then what you're going to do is, again, the same stitch, because as I said, this is the only stitch we're going to be working on this pattern. Then comes the time to start creating the borders of the waffle. So for that, normally you will go to the stitch there on the front. And then rather than doing that, we're going to go to the front post of that one, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna work the same stitch over in there. The only thing is that this time, rather than taking the V, you're taking the front panel. So that is one of the edge of the waffles that you just created in there. And then right now you need to create a repetition of stitches in between those panels. So forget about the stitch that you have right behind this panel. That belongs to that panel, not to nobody else. And then in the next 2 stitches in between panels is where you're gonna do an UK treble or a US double. So you're gonna do that twice, and then you're gonna create another panel. And then this is your repetition along the entire row, which is 2 stitches normal, 1 panel, 2 stitches normal, 1 panel. And this, you need to think as well, what we're creating right now is the front of the project, is how is it gonna look. And to know that, if you never know how to know your front and your back of your project, when your tail of the beginning is on your right hand side, that is the front of your project, and when it's on your left is the back of your project. So that's why in certain stitches that I have shown you before, I have pushed the other way around or something in the stitch, just because it goes the other way. But anyway, I don't want to confuse you right now. We have done too many stitches today, so I just want to let you know that what you have to do right now is 2 stitches in normal way plus the panel, and you're gonna finish with 1 panel plus 1 stitch on the last stitches. So then for that, you're gonna then chain 1 and turn. Now we are on the back of it, so we need to be really careful how we work the back, because we need to make sure it makes sense. So you're gonna go to the first stitch underneath that chains, and then you are going to work in there 1 normal stitch. Okay, this is how you're gonna start and end all the time, which is go with your stitch as normal. Now next one is a panel, right? But right now the panel is on the other side. The panel is not with us. So how are you gonna continue the panel? And then you have the 2 stitches in there in between, right? So how are you gonna be able to continue the panel so it's gonna follow? So when you turn to the right side, it's gonna look properly, is by working it in a different way that you did before, which is you're gonna work this one on the stitch, and then The other two that before you work on the stitch, now they are gonna become front panels. And this is the new repetition. When your tail is on your left hand side, then you're gonna work one time one stitch, two times front panel, one time normal stitch. When the tail is on your right hand side, then is when you're gonna work one front panel, two times normal stitch. I think explaining it that way making it a lot easier. And then to do the next row, which again is what I'm explaining right now, is just do the opposite. So it's all the time doing the opposite, and you need to think where is your tail to know where you're going. But basically it's when you can see the front panels coming out, that's when you know that you need to do one front panel and two stitches normal. And the secret as well is to not work the stitch right behind the panel, okay? I hope this stitch was easy because it's as much easier than what is it look, and enjoy it because I have a pattern coming out really soon with it and you're gonna see how gorgeous it looks. And for the last one we have the little fan stitches, and this is a multiple of 6 plus 1, and then you're going to go to the 5th chain from the hook. That's how many chains you have to jump, and this one is kind of the trickiest one, that's why I leave it for the end. You're gonna work a UK treble or a US double in that, so you have a really long chain spaces in there, and then you're gonna work stitches on the same stitch. You're gonna work 5 times these UK trebles or the US double crochets, okay? That is how we are gonna create our first little fan. And then from there, what you're going to do to close it down, you're gonna skip 2, and on the 3rd one, okay, you're skipping stitches in here to kind of create a separation in between fans. What you're going to do is you're going to insert your hook and you're going to work a UK double or a US single crochet. That's how it should look. And then again, you're going to skip 2, and then again, you're going to do the 5 stitches together, which is another fan. And this is the repetition you have to follow along the entire foundation chain that you have created, however long you needed the width of your project to be. Just remember the multiples of the foundation that we need. So it's a fan, a stitch in between, fan, stitch in between, which is really easy. Row 2 is again kind of like another foundation stitches that we have to create to be able to create more fans. So you're going to chain 5 actually, and then what we are going to do in here is you're gonna skip until you are in the center of that fan, which is kind of the 3rd stitch inside the fan. For me it's the middle, because if you think about it, it's 5 stitches, so you leave 2 on one side, 2 on another, and then you do it in the middle, okay? Then you're going to chain 2, and where you're gonna go is you're gonna go to the bottom of the stitch that we have done in between the fans, okay? That UK double or the US single crochet that we have created in the previous row. And over in there you're gonna create the UK treble or the US double crochet. Then you're gonna chain 1, and then again you're going to create in there another UK double or US single crochet and repeat along, okay? Once you've done that, you're gonna chain 4, and then comes the time to create the fans again. So you have that chain space in there, and then what you are going to do is you are going to start creating, first of all, on the exact underneath your stitch, you're going to create in there what is called a half a fan, which is the chain spaces plus 2 stitches. That's half a fan, which is going to be the border of this pattern. Then from there, you're going to skip until the next, where we've done the UK double or the US single. And then in there, you're going to do another one on top of it. Then you are going to skip to the first UK treble or US double crochet that we've done, and over in there is where a fan goes. So remember, it's 5 stitches in one place, and this is again the same repetition that you have to do. And to end this project, you can either finish on the previous row, or I will suggest you leave either the fans, which is really pretty, or you can do slip stitches.
Well, so this is the end of the video. I really hope you have enjoyed these videos courses that I have created for you, and keep an eye on our channel because I have a lot of new tutorials coming up using all of these stitches and more to teach you more in detail how these stitches look like once you create something with them, and as well a lot more things to come. So don't forget to give us a huge thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done it yet, press the notification bell, and I see you on the next one. Bye now.